Hi, thank you everyone for coming to this, our second Tide Talk here at the Tide store in Old Street Tube. My name's George. I'm the founder of Tide. Tide, as you know, is the banking service which saves small businesses time and money. But we're not here this evening to talk about Tide. There's plenty of opportunity to learn all about Tide on our website, tide.co. So instead, I'm very honoured to introduce Ned Poulter, who is going to speak to us this evening. Ned is the founder of Polestar Digital, which is a SEO and PPC and digital marketing, and in fact basically everything that I pay our marketing team a lot of money to do. Ned is an expert in. Some people might think that I invited Ned here today in the hope that he would share with our members a lot of expertise. The truth is, I just thought it'd be cheaper than paying his fees. But I'm very pleased that he could join us this evening. Ned has been a digital marketeer for the best part of a decade, working with brands like Sushi and the LADBible and a whole load of others as well. So he's a real expert. We're really lucky that he could join us this evening. I'm very grateful. So Ned, without a break, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, guys. Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I've just got the introduction, so I'm not going to introduce myself, as it were. But yeah, I'm here to basically talk to you about SEO, which is the original brief, but then also about paid social media, because they're two things which, especially I do a lot of the time, and they're a real growth industry. There are a lot of things that go on around there, and my clients are always asking about them. So I thought, at very least, I could come down, share some information, get you thinking a little bit, and also hopefully give you, at very least, a tool maybe to take away that you might take away and use in your day-to-day. Something which is going to help your marketing or whatever it may be. So let's dive right in. So I've split this presentation up into 3 parts. There's quite a lot of content here, so we'll see how we get along. But the 3 parts are basically visibility, how you can engage with your audience, and how you can leverage data as well. Because they're really important things which fit as part of the overall, very much so. And I think it's just worthwhile us talking about it. So it seems from a couple of the guys that I've spoken to already that people work in startups, and I get asked this question quite a lot. Does SEO matter for startups? That's meant to say. The answer is not necessarily. SEO is a bit of an interesting kind of makeup of digital marketing practices and a channel as such, because you can grow it organically doing your own things, and I'm going to give you a few things that you can maybe take away and do yourselves. But it's certainly not the things that I would focus on first off if you're a startup or you're running a startup business. And that's because often it's longer burn stuff. You can do a lot of best practice yourselves, really. There's an awful lot of stuff that you can read about online. And I'm kind of doing myself out of a job saying that, but still, I'm going to be honest with you. So what I tend to answer to that question is, well, do you have a story to tell? So this is something which kind of ties in with the PR aspect of SEO. And if you do have a story to tell, specifically about the service or what you offer, then you could probably make some inroads into SEO in general yourselves. I'll also precursor that with saying that answering a question with a question is an annoying politician thing to do, so I tend to kind of not draw it out too much, but really there's these 3 things, and I know a lot of PRs look at things like this, but it's quite straightforward. When you're talking about telling a story about your startup, about your company in general, just think about these, your whats, your whos, and your whys. And if you've got kind of defined things that you can respond to that, and you can develop content around that, then for a large part, you're kind of doing SEO anyway. Obviously, there's optimizing the pages and making sure that you're researching things, but still, fundamentally, if you can answer this, then you're probably going to put yourself in a good situation. And we'll get into some of the other things that are a bit more detailed later. First, I wanted to talk about how search has changed, though. And what I mean by that is SEO has changed. And largely, it's because of this. We've all got them. Tide is here because of them. But yeah, mobiles have really kind of changed the search landscape. And not only mobiles, technology in general. And it's changing at a really crazy pace now. But mobile especially, Google is now looking at mobile first indexing, which basically means that it's predominantly going to look at your site from a mobile phone user's perspective. And if it doesn't work for them, it's actively going to discourage you in search results. It's going to push you down the search results purely for not having a good experience. Mobile search overtook desktop search about 2 years ago. There are some interesting stats about places like South Africa where people actually, mobile search is the search. There is pretty much no such thing as desktop search because everyone just got straight onto the web on a smartphone. It was more attainable. So it's really kind of changed things. But when we have a look, this is kind of me sitting last night putting this deck together, searching for something which I would never actually search, but I think it's a good example to look at. Cheap hotels, especially not in capitals. You can tell I was desperate. But what I mean by this, everyone can see my laptop there. So it's a 12-inch screen laptop. It's probably about average in the grand scheme of things. But what's quite interesting is, out of all of these results that I'm given when I've admittedly searched for something that's obviously very competitive to search for, this is the only organic listing that's shown. Everyone else is paying to be there. You've got all these weird and wonderful star ratings and this rating like add-ons, ad extensions that people are adding, site links, these are called. But they're paying a lot of money per click just to appear there. So every time someone clicks, they're paying a lot of money. And very recently, actually, Google started testing changing the label. So now you can see it's basically invisible. I was going on about it recently where it's probably just going to disappear and people are just going to have to pay to be at the top. But it used to be yellow. It used to be, if you go back a couple of years, the whole of the ad section used to be highlighted in yellow. It had a very obvious border, but it's ever blending together. And then last year, they also got rid of the right-hand side ads as well, which you may or may not have noticed. So they put another ad space up here, which pushed everything down further. So it's just quite interesting to look at this to see what the landscape is when we're talking about organic search. Another one, cheap flights. Again, probably something I search more than cheap hotels, but you've got all these ads here. You've got these new structured formats as well. Again, they're all paid for. You've also got this sponsored box, which is again a Google initiative, but you pay to be in that. So you pay when someone searches there for you to be presented as part of the results. Again, my laptop there, this is the only organic listing I'm giving. It's pushing everything down. As I said, admittedly, this is a very competitive key phrase, but when you look at something that's perhaps not so competitive, I actually borrowed this from a colleague of mine out in Germany, a guy called Bastian, who runs a really successful agency there. And he shared this recently. And obviously the Oscars were this week. This was on a mobile device. You can see that when you search for Oscars 2017, it's not just your traditional list of blue links. It's not just visit these websites, get the information from there. It's actually bringing a lot of the information there for you. You probably don't even need to leave this search result page to find the information you're looking for. They're bringing through all the best picture nominations, last year's winners, trending, what people are searching for, nominees and winners literally of the awards, the information about the awards, even the start time of the awards. They're bringing through a lot of stuff which is 80% of this is Google owned. It's not actually going to drive traffic anywhere else. There's a few down here. I mean, Oscars Go is, I believe, the Oscars site as well. So again, it's quite interesting that this is a mobile result and the way that they're displaying things are totally different from what we would imagine 2 years ago or so. And one of the things about this is structured data. And I'm not going to get too much into the geeky side of things, but basically marking up data in a way that you serve it or Google can recognize it and say, I understand that as being this, for example, a star rating, and I'm going to present that on the search results before you even have to click to my website. And we'll see a few examples of this as well. So we're talking about Xero earlier on, actually. I use Xero for company accounts. This is their entire first page of their mobile results. And I think they're doing a pretty good job here. But actually, when you break it down, again, organic isn't a huge part of this, but certain tactics which you could use from an SEO perspective are. Up here, you've got, right at the top, their PPC ads. They're paying as well for those. They've also added the extension so you can install the app straight from the ad. They're paying every time people click on that. A big company, owning their brand search. Not a bad thing. It's probably quite cheap to be there. They've got their website ranking organically first, as you would expect. And then you get all these kind of interesting other results, like Twitter. They've got an active Twitter account. They're pulling tweets through. They've got their links to their apps in both the Play Store and the iTunes Store. You can install them straight from there. It comes through, pulling through the ratings as well, like I said, structured data. This is what you would find on the right-hand side of your desktop search, which is called the knowledge graph, which again, it's structured data. It's linking through to their social profiles. It's bringing through even their company badge, their company logo. It's even got stock market information in there, which again, it's pulling because it recognized it, because it's been marked up in such a way. Then you've got things like their YouTube channel, Facebook, Vimeo, and their LinkedIn profile. So I think that's a pretty good way of going if you think about their brand. Granted, it's a word they made up, but they're owning everything on there. They have control over everything on there, with the exception of Wikipedia, but when you're that kind of size as Zero, you can influence things that are on there anyway. They're not just going to write anything. Also, it's not just about search results. We interact with devices to search for things in a very different way than we did 2 years ago. And I don't do this very often, but it's something that we're talking about a lot in SEO, is voice search, voice-driven search. How do you optimize for voice-driven search? I personally, I speak on the phone a lot, but I don't particularly like asking my phone questions. That's why I don't really use this. But there's been an influx, especially this year and over the last Christmas, of devices where people are interacting with search in that way. Xbox is the same. Xbox is obviously a Microsoft company. Microsoft owns Bing. Bing's voice search, in my opinion, is actually arguably better than Google's. It's more accurate, presents some really, really cool things, and if you actually search about the way that it's set up and the technology behind it, there's a huge amount of really, really cool things that you can learn there. But this is one of these things where I was sat in my mate's living room and he started talking to his computer console and searching for things on YouTube, which was it was genuinely one of those moments that I was like, this is kind of sci-fi shit, this is crazy. He's talking to his console to search for something, and it's doing it, it's understanding it, it's really cool. These, when I mentioned over last Christmas especially, I'm sure there's probably people in the room that own them or know people that have bought them. I don't at the moment, but yeah, talking to devices, having a connected home. Again, these are basically extensions of the search engine. These are fundamentally just a different way of finding information and processing them to give you a result back. And then there's everything with Oculus Rift and virtual reality, which we're not quite there. It is a thing now, very much more than the kind of 3D glasses that you used to put on when you were younger. But when it comes to search and how we'd interact with that, not quite there yet. But fundamentally, there's kind of two important words that I think about when it comes to search in 2017. And these are them being both local and personal. If you're logged into Google, your search results will be adapted to you as an individual based on your behavior. So what kind of sites you visit, what you click on, what you don't click on. That's known. Local, again, mobile. If you've got a mobile, they know what location you're in. If you're searching for something, they're probably going to present you something that's close to you. So steps that you can take to better equip yourselves. Let's just go through a few things, which are just, some of them are top-level recommendations. Some might be really, really obvious things that you already know. Some might be things that you've not thought about. Hopefully the latter. So you've got to get visible. When we're talking about startups, one of the main things that we can do is get the real estate. We looked at the Zero example. We call it the search engine real estate. It's basically capturing and owning the listings when people search for it. I've not searched for it for a while, but if you search for Polestar Digital, I would very much hope that it would link to me and it would be websites that I'm in control of. Really simple, useful website, name check. It searches for two main things, domains and usernames across social platforms. So you plug something in, like Tide Talks, it gives you all the domains that are available. You can get tidetalks.ninja if you want, or .bar. Maybe close, I don't know. But then you can also see a load of these other websites out there, which are effectively predominantly social profiles, but you can go and register them. Literally, you click on there and you just go and register them. So if you're starting a startup, easy, super, super cheap takeaway, just go and do this for it before you've even told anyone about it. Preferably that, because you never know, there might be something out there. It's also a good learning thing. George and I were talking earlier on about where the name Polestar Digital comes from. There were about 40 different names for Polestar Digital before it was Polestar Digital. The reason why it ended up as Polestar Digital, I stuck it in here and I could get the domain and I could get all the social profiles. It's as simple as that. I thought, why compete with something that's already an existing digital agency out in San Francisco or something and has a massive website? And it's just no point. Make it easier when you come into the fight rather than more difficult for yourself when you're starting out. Another website, which predominantly I think everyone uses because it looks really pretty, but no, it's really useful. This is called Answer the Public. This was an example of one thing that we call in SEO keyword research, where you find the search terms that you want to rank for. Now, this is a little kind of over-egged sometimes because it's not quite as simple as I want to rank for banking service. You type that on a couple of times on your web page and you're going to rank. It's more complicated than that. But this means you can flip it up the other end. So you can literally type anything in. It's quite fun to do. But if you type in something like mobile banking, I threw in there, to generate some content ideas, because we're looking to generate content for our website, for example. And what it does is it splits things up based on the sentence structure, with either the pre-modifiers or the post-modifiers. And there's just various things where you can think, well, actually, this is quite an interesting thing. So how mobile banking works. If you are in that field, you could probably have input on that so you can start generating content. There's things that, what we refer to as the longer tail things, where you could look actually to answer these questions. It goes back to those 3 W's at the beginning. You can look to work to your strengths and provide useful, engaging content, which at the end of the day is going to help you be more visible when it comes to search. No less actually could work as a leads generation tactic for you. Here's another example. Again, it's part of the same results, but it's just splitting things up as well. So some of these things are nonsense, of course. It's a machine, but it took me like 10 seconds to do this and generate this. And it's just that thought process where you can start to generate ideas. Get listening. This is a big thing. The web's huge, right? It's growing at a rate of crazy versus crazy. And you're not going to be able to keep up if you're starting a startup or you're running a business on things that have been mentioned, places that have been mentioned online, reviews maybe of your service, social media mentions, whatever it may be. And there's some simple ways that you can deal with this, and it's honestly some of the simple things which are the best some of the times. So you can set up Google Alerts is a service where you can literally type in a keyword or a couple of keywords, maybe your brand, for example, and it will just send you an email when it's mentioned online. Simple stuff. TalkWalker Alerts does it the same. They're both free, not paid for. You can set up them both. Some examples of what you could set them up on. Obviously, your brand name is an obvious one. Maybe variations or misspellings as well. Your website URL. So if people are actually typing a question about it on a question and answer site, for example, saying, is this any good? Has anyone tried this? You can be there. You literally get it delivered to your inbox, so you can go and answer it as the brand. If you're a product-based company, you can do it with your products, even employee names when it's press-related material or something, or even service-based keywords if you want to broaden it out a little bit. So if it is mobile banking app or whatever it may be, you can do that too. I will share these slides at the end as well, guys, so don't worry about jotting too many of these things down. As I mentioned, question and answer sites. Quora is probably the most popular one. If you're a product-based company, Product Hunt is big as well. But these are places where you're probably going to get a really engaged audience. So if you are tracking where you're mentioned online, you may crop up on places like this. And there may be I've seen Quora threads which are really thorough discussions into certain things. Which app should I use for this? Or does anyone know a service that can do this for me? If you can be there, whether or not for the brand or just as an influencer, then you start forgetting about the search engine results and ranking #1 for that thing, which when you're starting out, it's not going to happen. But you can start owning the conversation a bit more, which is more where search is going, and you're getting organic traffic from that. Similar to the mentions of your keyword, there's a tool called Image Radar. Same thing, but for images. So if you have a logo, if you have some glossy product images, if you have images of employees, you can bang these into Image Radar, and it will tell you when it finds them on the web. So this is, again, simple things. First off, you could do it for protection. People are stealing your images. You could at least write to them and say, well, you have kind of stole my images, so maybe you can at least credit me with a link, maybe back to my website. Links are important for SEO. It's a good thing. But yeah, even with your brand, you might have someone writing a review, or they may be comparing you to another product or service. Again, this is another way that you can pick up on that, and you can be there to respond. Get local. This might not apply to everyone. Local search, as I mentioned, is massive. It's driven by mobile. This was actually on my desktop. I wasn't looking for a hairdresser, but I typed in hairdresser just to see this. This is my house in Manchester. Now, what's interesting here is, okay, it's a very broad keyword. It's not really got any kind of intent behind it. It's quite broad. It's just a single word. However, Google knows that I'm looking for hairdressers, and it therefore thinks I'm going to be looking for them near me. I'm not going to be looking everywhere and anywhere. So it lists some that are really close to my house, and these are like seriously close to my house. What's interesting is that is the top of the search results. That is not an organic result. That is purely just people setting up a Google My Business profile, and you can appear there and leapfrog everyone else. You don't have to worry about the rest pouring money into SEO or whatever it may be. And also, I'm probably not going to pay any attention to these. Maybe if I click on a few things and bounce back, then I'll get to this, but I can click more places, and it's going to give me more listings in there. So it's really important to look at things like this, to know that it's not always about a complicated setup to win with SEO. Just play to your strengths. So as I mentioned, Google My Business is free to set up. If you've got a location-based business, I strongly recommend you do. If you've got multiple locations, you can do it for each of the locations. Bing Places for Business is obviously the Bing equivalent of this. You can go out, set them up, super easy. There's also 30 websites there which you can do for free. Some of them you'll recognize. Facebook's an obvious one. Yelp, Yell, things like that. You can set these up for free, and these are listed as the most authoritative location-based websites as well. So again, super easy thing. If you are a location-based business, go out, spend 2 hours setting up your profiles on this. At very least, you're going to get some links back to your website, which can or cannot positively influence when it comes to SEO. But also, you're owning that real estate. When people are searching for your business, you'll get these things appear because they're on authoritative websites as well. So yeah, as I said, upload, verify all locations. Then an important thing for location-based SEO, local SEO, is ensure that there's consistency across all the listings. And that means don't write the address 15 different ways across all the different sites, because they're not going to be able to connect them together. Keep your postcode in the same format, your telephone number in the same format. If it's so-and-so road that your business is on, write it as road, not RD, and then all different things. Get structured. I touched on this before. A little bit geeky, but I'll try not to lose you. As I said, you can mark up data so it can play to structured data, so Google or search engines understand it. Really obvious one, we looked at this with Zero. That's a brand logo. This is where the headquarters is and their contact number, and these are some of their social profiles as well. Given that it's Apple, probably less so, but with most websites, you can actually influence what is shown there by using structured data. There's other things, as I mentioned. Ratings are obvious things. You've seen these in the search results. Ratings. Recipes is an interesting one because it will tell you the time taken to cook a recipe, how many calories it's got in. These are all things that Google goes, right, when people are visiting a recipe site, what are the main things they're going to be focusing on? You can even do it with events. So yeah, that's AC/DC tickets. but it will show you the upcoming events. Again, they're in a certain format, which if you mark them up the correct way, they'll get pulled through onto the search results and increase your visibility. This is super geeky stuff, but I've linked off here if you do want to look into it. You can mark up some of your data with what's called JSON LD, JSON linked data, and you can identify some of these things. The reason why I mention this is you don't physically have to do this on your website. You don't have to get your developer to do it. You can influence it through a layer that you put in front of things. And you can do things like link your social profiles, customer service number, probably important for companies out there, and your logo. If you want to read more about that, those will lead you to a lot of more stuff, which is really cool stuff. It's by a guy called Phil Pearson, who's really into this, and quite easy to follow as well. Again, Pancake Day earlier on. Trim this off a little bit at the top. But just to show the example of structured data, especially with recipes in play, Pancake Day on Tuesday, I searched for this. When we break this down, we can see that those aren't organic results. That's structured data pulled through by Google, from Wikipedia actually, for the most part, and also similar searches, which is a bit odd when it's pancakes. You've got stories, obviously heavily about Pancake Day, and you've got Twitter. So you can be on that page for a broad term like this without necessarily ranking. All of these top 5 sites that are ranking in the traditional positions, have structured data on them. They all have images. You're going to click on those above these, way, way more. They've got things like your ratings being pulled through, the minutes taken to cook, your calorie counters, all of these things. And it's only down there where you get your traditional links. So as I'm saying, it's a bit of a kind of arbitrary example, but you can see how influential it can be by just doing these things and just looking at it, how much more visibility you can get. It's not always about ranking number 1, it's about being visible. If you are experimenting with structured data, there's this tool which you can test it in. Literally throw a URL in and it will spit out what it recognizes as structured data. You can go through this guide which will literally tell you how to mark up things, so local business being an obvious one. You stick the URL in and then you can highlight the different parts of data which it's looking for. Another form of structured data is Facebook Open Graph data. That's when people share a link and it automatically creates something like this. It's amazing how many companies don't do this. Again, 3 bits of data which you mark up and you say, when someone shares this URL, I want this to be my image, this to be my title, and this to be my description. If you think of how much you can leverage that because it's people doing it anyway, they're already sharing it, you just get to own what the message is when they do it. Similar thing on Twitter is called Twitter cards. They come in all different shapes and forms, but as you can see, these are different than your normal tweets. They've got things like a SoundCloud embedded link. They've got things like large images embedded. They've got things like events embedded as well, or call to actions. These can all be done really simply, actually. If you literally just Google these things, they'll show you how you can do it. And get inspired. Tool called BuzzSumo. This is really cool. It's not a free tool, unfortunately, but if you're looking to invest in SEO or to try a bit of content marketing or SEO yourself, you can chuck something in, like craft beer, I've gone for here, and it will give you the most shared or the most linked to assets that it can find. You can filter down here between what content type it is, so whether you're writing a blog post or an infographic or you're doing a giveaway, and you can basically use that to inform how you're going to approach things as your company. Similar, uses the same algorithm. You can pump your Facebook page in or someone else, maybe a competitor's Facebook page, and it's going to bring through what performed best for them. It literally breaks down stats on it. The one thing I would say about this is they have to be quite big pages. It's not just going to work with any old Joe's sandwich shop or something. So, yeah, but do give it a try. It's good always for inspiration. So, cool. So, next I'm going to talk about targeting interaction. I hear this all the time. My customers aren't on social media. Wrong. They are. I guarantee it. Even if you are the strictest, most fuddy-duddy company, your customers most definitely are on social media. It's just some crazy stats which blow my mind every time I go through them. 1 in 3 minutes of all minutes spent online are spent on social media. Absolutely mad. That's how much procrastination has got to. People will literally spend 1 in every 3 minutes just checking their Facebook just in case. Twitter's got 310 million monthly active users. Obviously different than the total amount of users it has, but they're the active ones. LinkedIn has 450 million members, and 100 million of those access it monthly. That's 29% of the whole internet. It's just on LinkedIn. Facebook, stratospheric, different level. Facebook has 1.49 billion active monthly users. That's 79% of the whole internet. So think about the potential. There's 6, so since I've been jabbering on for about 20 minutes, 6 new profiles have been created every second. So that's thousands already. There's 500,000 new profiles every day. It's absolutely huge potential there. And of course, we can reach them with Facebook ads. So you say that your customers aren't on social media? I disagree. Facebook ads are really awesome. I do a lot of them. They have kind of come out of nowhere, actually. Facebook obviously floated for the IPO. Everyone said, oh, I'm not going to use Facebook anymore if it has ads on it. No one really left. There are a few people that did, but it fit a need that people felt like they needed to address. So, and it still does. And the ads aren't particularly invasive, and they're quite interactive, they're quite engaging. So Facebook ads are awesome. I'm sure you're all awesome individually. So Facebook ads plus you, bad maths this is, equals awesome stuff. So let's go through some of the things, but first off, let's talk about tracking. Really essential. If you've got a website set up, basic things. Not everyone's heard of this. Google Tag Manager is, the geeky way of explaining it is it's a tag management solution, which basically creates a interface between your website, the actual code in your website, and what code you want to put onto it. But the reason why I say about it is you don't have to get your developer involved every time you want to put a tracking pixel or to understand, leverage more data. You can put things like Google Analytics into Google Tag Manager, and you don't have to change anything on your website. You don't run the risk of breaking things. You can deploy the Facebook pixel as well. And again, if you're looking and doing advertising on Facebook, I'd highly, highly recommend this. So many people don't do this, it's mad, and big sites don't as well. Facebook and Google are different companies. They don't share their data because their data is where the money's at. So you need to install both tracking pixels to be able to leverage the data from each individual platform. Then you can get creative. If you are looking to create Facebook ads, and I'd strongly recommend it because you can literally do them as cheap as £1 a day. So even some things which I'll share, ways that you can approach it, maybe just try it, see if it works. Get the tracking set up, and at the very least you can understand who's visited your website. This is a really cool idea. I actually thought of doing this and then discovered it already existed, so I'll just share that one anyway. But Ad Espresso is a Facebook management tool, Facebook ads management tool. They have this really cool gallery which has, like nearly 2,000 pages, nearly 25,000 different examples of Facebook ads in all different shapes and forms, and you can filter them by placements, industries, objectives. You can type in just keywords in there. If you're a flower shop, this is obviously very flowers, or if, I don't know, you do financial services, type it in. Get inspired by what's out there. Really cool example, I've shared this a bunch of times, but this is the type of ad creative that really got my attention. Simple stuff, simple design. They've just made it look like it's 3D, but it's just a play with your eye based on a bit of shading. Probably really cheap to do, but that's going to stand out. And one of the things about Facebook ads is you live and die by your creative. The more time you invest in your creative, the better you can help stand out, especially with all the noise on Facebook. So get creating your ads. Tools for doing these, I'll rattle through these. You may have heard of some of them. Canva is awesome. It's free, it has a free version, it has a paid version as well. But I would definitely look into this if you're doing Facebook ads and you want to develop creative. You don't need to be a designer. You can upload your images, you You can add text onto them. It's really, really super simple. Stencil is similar to Canva. Again, highly recommended. You can do things. Does anyone know what Cinemagraph is? Yeah, cool. A couple of nods. I don't normally get nods for that, which is good. They're the things. Have you seen images that have part of them moving? So part of them are interacting. So they'll have like a coffee cup on a desk, and the coffee cup will be steaming. Just slightly different. It's a bit of a trick of the eye, but that's what a cinemagraph is. So Flixel allows you to create them, so you can create your own. And it just, again, it kind of steps you out there. You can use GIFs as well now in your Facebook ads, so you can have animated images without being a video as such. This is a cool website where you can get, you can just search for royalty-free images to use on your ads as well. It's really cool. You can also sell your photos on it. I think it's quite a clever idea. 2020 is a crowdsourced solution. You can actually use other people's, you can use other people's genuine posts off social media and leverage theirs. So if you want to get away from the kind of horrible stock photo approach, you literally pay people money and say, I want to use that. Gives a real sense of authenticity. One thing I would be wary of, just because it's one thing that is either very pro or, it's very good or bad for your advertising, is how much text you have in it. Facebook can't really make up its mind on this, but basically if you have an image which is just a massive load of text, it's going to either limit it or ban it altogether from being shown. But be careful, this is the tool where if you do create ad creative, stick it in this tool, and it will tell you where it is on the scale. If you're okay, it's fine. If you're in this kind of region, it's just going to limit the reach of your ad. So it's going to you're going to pay more to hit the same amount of people. So best avoided. And get testing. There's a bunch of different placements on Facebook. Some of them are more expensive than others. The right-hand side placement is really cheap, but also doesn't have great interaction rates. Desktop newsfeed placements are quite expensive, but again, if you've got more engaging media, it might work for you. Newsfeed, somewhere in between. It's quite a nice happy medium there. But it's worthwhile just playing with these. Obviously, there's Instagram as well. From experience, Instagram's really expensive, and the ads don't always look like ads. So try it, by all means, test it, but you might find that it's not as successful as it could be. Some cool ad types to try. You've probably seen them. Video views can be really powerful. They're really pushing video as well. So it's really cheap to get a hell of a lot of views on your videos. I'm talking like pennies, if not lower, per view. You can do things like 360 video. I'm a big Star Wars fan. This was a really, really cool, engaging video, which I spent quite a long time watching, where you could literally look around with your phone. Super immersive. You could definitely leverage that to be with other brands, for example. Local awareness is very cool. I was going to actually set this up for here, but this is a great example. You can put a pin on a map where you are, where your business is, where multiple businesses are, or where you may be exhibiting for a day, and you can show people within a kilometre radius of that. So everyone that is on Facebook and they just so happen to fall into that kilometre, you can show ads just to those. And use things like get directions. Literally say, come visit us at this place. It's really super simple, but you'd be amazed how well that can work for certain businesses. And it's connecting that online and offline experience as well. Genuine business. Lead gen ads, again, really, really cool if you're looking to grow your email subscriber list or you want people to subscribe for a specific offer or incentive. The beauty of these is they avoid the friction of taking you onto another website to type all your details in, which may or may not work on mobile. What they do is they pull your information that you say that you want, say name and email address, automatically from what Facebook knows about you, and you literally say subscribe, submit. That's it. You get their email address signed up straight away. So the rates comparing this to driving someone to a different website, much, much better. Cool things as well, you can put stages in the questions. So Land Rover were obviously using this part of their sales funnel, and they were asking a question like, when do you plan to purchase? they'll bucket you into that. Well, they're going to purchase a new car in a year, so let's market to them in a year. Really, really simple, really, really cool. And Canvas. Canvas is super immersive. You may or may not have seen these. Not everyone's seen these at the moment. These are examples when you click, it takes over your device. But the beauty is you get to build this. You can build it literally in like a drag and drop editor inside of Facebook ads. Here's a cool example. This was actually via Facebook. But you click through, when you get into it, you basically can have your store hosted in there, a landing page. You can choose between, scroll through different carousel images. You can choose different colors, and it will literally update the product. And the whole idea is that this is basically like a landing page builder for Facebook. Again, you're not leaving the Facebook experience. It's super, super immersive. But remember that you can build audiences off any ad that you run. So if you run something like a lead generation campaign with a lead gen ad format, you can actually target just the people who actually engaged with your ad but didn't complete the sign up. So you can maybe incentivize those people or leverage things to those guys. Same with videos. That's why I said videos can be really powerful, because you can reach a huge amount of people and you can say, well, these guys watched 50% or more of the video. So they probably need a bit more convincing, but they were interested enough to get that far. So group these into a separate audience, adapt your messaging, and then reserve them ads. Make it more special to them. And get wild. There's a load of things that you can do. These are some examples from clients that I've done. Use emoticons in your ad title. It just makes it stand out. You can, if you go on, I have to go on this, but yeah, Emojipedia, you can literally type in keywords and there's a chicken drumstick and a bottle of fizz. Why not? A sunglasses client of mine, you can literally show a sun. It just makes you stand out that bit more. You can do things like uploading audiences, so you can enhance your email marketing, upload your email list, and then maybe only show ads to the people that didn't open your latest email. The ad can basically link to the same content. But it helps just push it that bit further, and it's super cheap to do. You can turn trialers into customers. An example being Graze. You may or may not have tried Graze. I have a few times. Tend to cancel quite quickly after. I'm probably really annoying for them. But they are reaching out to me, and they'll maybe incentivize me. Give me £5 off the next box, whatever it may be. Do things like generate competition entries or survey responses. Or just encourage people to come back to your website. If they've reached a certain part of your website, you can send specific ads to them based on that. There is a lead generation card for Twitter as well, which is worth trying out. Again, just involves that frictionless process of getting signups and building your email database. And then if you are a startup that offers a specific thing, you can look at something like in-mail ads. It's a really cool format on LinkedIn, where you can target people by job role or title, job title, and only pitch to them. So it's a bit like a cold call, but you can make it more than that. You can make it more accurate, specific to their job role. And hey, it's better than sitting with a phone book and kind of ringing every number as you go along. We mentioned this before. Get your tracking pixels in place, and you can start understanding your audience. It's as simple as that. But if you get slightly smarter with this, you can do things like you've got your Google Analytics in place, you've got Facebook, your Facebook pixel, which is pulling information from Facebook. Of course, as I said, these don't actually add up because you can't import one into the other. But what you can do is, if you are running Facebook campaigns, set up what's called UTM tracking, and you can set this up with this, where you can identify the source, what ad campaign you're running, what creative you're running on it, and you can at least see what's been the most effective when you pull it through to Google Analytics. Turn these on, if you haven't already. Demographic reports in Google Analytics will tell you the demographic breakdown, as Google understands it, of your website. You can see, literally, what the type of visitors you get to your website. But what's great about this is I've got a restaurant client who had a very strict kind of approach to their demographics. They were very traditional, and they were like, nope, our demographics are 35 to 50. And I went on this report and I said, no, they're not. They're 24 to 35. And that was the majority of them. And it was quite interesting because then, of course, you can then take that, compare it to the Facebook insights that you got from your page, and serve ads to those people in that demographic. You know that you could shift your spend a bit higher on those people that are actually the ones that are engaging more with your content or converting on your website. Spend the money in the right places, basically. So there you go, there's a lot of stuff talking about that. Another free tool, really useful, user tracking software. If you've got Google Tag Manager set up, really easy to set this up because you just dump the tracking code in there and you can deploy it straight away. You could do it in literally 30 seconds. This gives you really cool insights about how people are interacting with your website. So we've often seen heat maps. This will do it. What's good about Hotjar is it's actually free. It's got quite a generous free version. So you can set it up just to have a play. And I'd highly recommend that you do. So you can see on different devices where people were clicking. So you can maybe inform your design based on that. You can actually watch them as well. This is kind of spooky Big Brother stuff, but you can do user journeys, where you, screen recording of user journeys, so you can watch them do it. Now, I've ran tests like this for clients before. I will warn you, it's really frustrating, because it's one of those where you kind of feel like you're sat over their shoulder, and you're going, come on, sign up. No, what they're going to looking at now, but you can obviously extrapolate that to a lot of really useful things, such as why people aren't signing up. Another example of that is, so this is funnel visualization. Again, all baked into Hotjar. It's a really cool tool. But this, you actually get this in Google Analytics. This just looks a bit prettier. But it shows you when people are dropping off. If this is an e-commerce site, as the example, you've got the landing page, they've looked at a product, they've added it to their cart, they've got to the cart, they've got to the checkout, and then they've got to the thank you page. We want everyone to be there. But people may fall off. It may be because they don't take Amex or something, for example. But you can see this, and you can see what might be affecting things. Even cooler if you're a startup. If you've got forms, you can track the individual fields on your forms. So a really cool example of this was I was working with a fuel card company, and they were asking for people's insurance number. No, was it insurance number? It was something which basically I was like, I have no idea what mine is. And you could see there was this huge dwell time where people went, oh God, I need to go and like dig out the paperwork and try and find it. And I was like, is it really important at that stage? They're an inquiry. You want them to inquire. You don't want them to leave. I always equate it to kind of the offline example of someone walking into your shop, looking around, picking up a product, walking over to the cashier till, with the card in hand, ready to give you the money, and you're kind of going, woo, with the card machine, just making it more difficult for them. But yeah, it's super simple, and you can do it for free. You can set it up, and it runs, I can't remember, I've not looked at the pricing structure for a while, but you can run it for free on like 1,000 sessions or something a month. You don't pay anything. Yeah, and then it goes up to $29 a month for a huge amount. Basically, there used to be a bunch of other tools that did this, but this combines everything into one and is very generous at how it's free, so you can sign up there. Facebook's difficult because it presents you with too much data, and you need to be very specific about what you look at, and don't get too bogged down by things like household size. Pretty crazy. You can target people that are pregnant on Facebook, which is really quite creepy, but yeah, you can kind of really drill down, but don't get too bogged down in it. I think there's over 500 data points that you can analyze things from, but obviously it just gets a bit blurry if you're trying to analyze to that level. But you can get personal, and you can do this by setting up custom audiences. It's a major thing that you can leverage with Facebook. There's 4 main types. This one's really new. Customer file. I'll actually rattle through these slides because they're basically talking about these. But customer file is when you upload either mobile numbers or email addresses of your clients or wannabe clients or whoever it may be. You can do that and create audiences from them. Website traffic is when you've got the pixel set up. You can retarget people that have been to your site or to certain parts of your site. App activity, as it says, people that have interacted with your app. And engagement on Facebook is quite interesting. This is why I was saying maybe experiment with something like running a video ad. Closing your targeting a bit so you're not just showing it to everyone, but then take the people that have potentially shown interest to that and then market more to them. So I'll skip through these because these are just very much the hows you can do this. Again, I mentioned before, you can look at people that have opened lead gen forms but didn't actually complete it. Quite a cool thing. People who opened your canvas but then didn't actually follow on to a conversion after that. And then you can create lookalike audiences, and these are really scarily accurate, but you basically say, of this custom audience, so of the people that visited my website, give me 1% remainder of people that Facebook knows that have similar interests to these people. And I'd advise trying it maybe 1%. Don't go too far up there. You'll be hitting a lot of people, and it gets obviously less and less relevant. It's the whole 6 degrees of separation thing. But do try it, because you can reach people, because Facebook says, we know these people are kind of similar to the people that you actually want in the first place. And it's very difficult to get that through any other means. So you can create lookalike audiences for like people who like your page, email lists that you upload, even previous customers, existing customers, app activity, etc., etc. It's basically all of the custom audiences setups are conditional. So they're and, or, include, exclude. And if you play around with them, the possibilities are pretty much endless. And you need to think about which audiences obviously fits where. There's also LinkedIn custom audiences. These are really cool. Again, it's more business orientated, but you can do things like job titles, everyone thinks of, age, groups they belong to. It's quite interesting. If you have a product that appeals to a certain, say startups, you can target people that are members of startup groups. Obviously, you can target people at companies, industries, the size of their business. This is a cool diagram. It shows the overlap between these, so what you can target. This is obviously like Venn type diagram. Google Customer Match, very similar. Google's take on this. Basically, it's really about kind of applying a bit of intelligence to your marketing. The tools are out there. They're free, predominantly. And I guarantee that you will be able to turn results very cheaply on social, particularly on Facebook, and give it a try. Digital marketing is testing at the end of the day anyway. So even if it doesn't work, you've not exhausted a huge amount of budget trying it. There's some cool, useful things to take away here. If you have got GA set up, and if you haven't and you've got a website, I highly recommend you do. These, if you click on them, they will install these for you. These are a bunch of dashboards which I use for clients. If you click on it, it will literally load it up inside, so you can use it on yours, clients, friends, auntie's website, whatever it may be. Custom reports, same thing. Just brings through certain data that doesn't get you confused with everything that's available and gives you some actionable things. And then custom segments as well. And these are some blogs, actually, which I took these from. And if you are super interested in analytics, dig a little deeper in there. But remember this very important word, remarketing. If you're going to try anything, just get your Facebook pixel on your website and market to people that you have found your website. Because whether it's through SEO or otherwise, they've got there somehow. They've come across your brand and they've committed enough to actually get onto your website. So just set up remarketing ads. Just try and capture people that haven't made a conversion but have actually made it to your website. One of my clients calls it digital stalking. Quite like that. It's probably more accurate than remarketing, so quite like it. I like to call it audience development. So this is a tool actually called Bannerwise. It's a bit like the other tools that I mentioned. It's quite a new tool, but these can create banners for you to advertise across Google Display Network or Facebook or whatever it may be. And you can do it really easily. Any of us can do it. You don't need to be a designer. You don't need to know Photoshop or anything. They can be interactive banners, and you can do it for literally like pennies to set them up. Just try it. If you've got a business that's running on small marketing budgets, just try setting this up. And I know the guys over there, so I spoke to them. So if you use that code, you'll get 50% off as well. And I think it makes it like 20 euros. It's like a monthly thing. You can throw out maybe 25 banners on that, run them, and then see where it goes. See if you get business. Who knows? If it's 20 euros you've thrown at it, at least you've started. So, and then get old school as well. So this is kind of the closing thing, is that you need to think about this funnel, the sales funnel, when you think about specifically paid marketing, but more specifically paid social marketing? Because some of your activity will exist up here. Some of it will be here. Some of it will be conversion orientated, but you've really kind of funneled down the amount of people you're going for. And then maybe less of it's loyalty and advocacy, especially if you're a startup. You can get to that later. I actually borrowed this concept from a lady named Sam Noble, who's a good friend, who talks about paid social a lot. And she kind of broke these down into what mechanics you can actually do at the different stages of these funnels, and I really like that. So it's basically just sharing. And again, just reference this. If you want to try things out, if you are running paid media yourself or paid social yourself, give it a go. At awareness, you've got obviously these things. I've highlighted the things which are strictly social advertising. Get considered. Again, this is when people are getting slightly down that funnel. They're making a decision in your kind of industry about yours or maybe a competitor's product. Get converting. Again, got Facebook shopping, remarketing, obvious things in there. Got other things that you would have noticed as well. Get loyal. Less tactics here. But some pretty cool things that you can do when you've got custom audiences and when you're making good use of custom audiences, such as you've already bought something, maybe you'll like this product that fits nicely with your other product. And then advocating, probably the most difficult. That's when people are going and shouting about it. But yeah, Facebook ads and Twitter ads can really help that. Engagement. If you really genuinely have a great product, people will shout about it. Be careful. I've seen a lot of people blindly do Facebook ads and not check the comments on them. First off, they've enabled comments and they're not checking them, and they're basically paying to see people slate them in front of potential customers. Be wary of that. There's some really bad examples of that. But mainly when you go to create an ad on Facebook as well, there's a reason why they're grouped like that. That's why you need to have this old school approach with the funnel. And of course, it wouldn't be a presentation in 2017 without having Donald Trump in here, so we'll end on that. So we're going to start winning bigly, to speak his language. But thanks very much. So there's visibility, personalized data, interaction. I put the me bit at the end because that's always, I got introduced anyway. But yeah, thank you very much.
So often I say to people, it'd be handy if you might want to think about a talk that could be described as sort of 10 top tips for. Mm-hmm. Well, I hadn't anticipated this evening you'd bring us something like 126 top tips. So I think we got a lot more than our money's worth this evening, and I'm hugely grateful to you for all of that. So thank you, Ned, very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And if people want to reach out to you, how would they contact you?
Twitter's probably a good way. Google me. You should be able to find me. I've got a couple of business cards. I'm running pretty low on those. But yeah, my email address is on the slides and I'll share them. So yeah, by all means, give us a shout.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Ned.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.